James Carter, a self-made millionaire from Los Angeles, never expected that a routine drive through the city would lead to a life-changing encounter. As he stopped at a red light in downtown, his eyes caught a familiar face. A woman sitting on the sidewalk, holding the hands of two small children. Took him a moment, but then his heart sank. It was Emily, the woman he once loved years ago. She was now homeless, struggling to survive on the streets with her kids. Without hesitation, James pulled over, stepped out of his Bentley, and walked toward her. What happened next was nothing short of incredible. James took a deep breath as he approached Emily. Her face, once full of warmth and laughter, was now tired and weathered. She looked up, her eyes filled with both surprise and embarrassment. "Emily?" James said softly. Tears welled up in her eyes as she recognized him. She quickly wiped them away and forced a weak smile. "James, I didn't think I'd ever see you again." The children clung to her, their small faces peeking at the tall man in the expensive suit. James knelt down, smiling gently. "Hey there, what are your names?" The little boy, no older than 6, hesitated before whispering, "Liam." His younger sister, barely 4, buried her face in her mother's side. James looked back at Emily. "What happened?" She hesitated, looking down at the pavement. "Life happened," she murmured. "After my husband passed away, everything fell apart. The bills, the rent. I tried, James. I really did. But one thing led to another, and now—" She gestured at the worn-out blanket and backpack beside her. James felt a lump in his throat. He remembered the ambitious, kind-hearted woman he had once known. They had drifted apart years ago, each chasing different dreams. But seeing her like this, struggling to keep her children safe, stirred something deep within him. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his wallet, and handed her some cash. But she shook her head. "I can't take that, James." He frowned. "Emily, this isn't charity. It's a friend helping a friend." Still, she hesitated. It wasn't just about money. What she truly needed was a chance to rebuild her life. James stood up, determination in his eyes. "All right," he said. "Then let's do this the right way." Emily looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" James smiled. "Come with me. Let's get you and the kids someplace safe first. Then we'll figure out the rest." For the first time in a long time, Emily saw a glimmer of hope. But could she really accept his help? Could she trust that this wasn't just a fleeting act of kindness? She looked down at her children, cold, hungry, exhausted. Then she made a decision. Emily tightly held her children's hands, hesitating for a moment before finally nodding. James gently led them toward his Bentley parked by the curb. The little girl remained shy, hiding behind her mother, but Liam curiously glanced up at James. As the car pulled away from the cold, unforgiving streets, silence filled the space. James didn't want to overwhelm Emily, giving her time to gather her thoughts. Finally, he spoke. "I'll take you and the kids to a hotel for now. Tomorrow we'll figure out a more permanent solution." Emily clasped her hands together, looking down. "James, I don't want to be a burden. You don't owe me anything." James met her eyes in the rearview mirror, his voice steady. "This isn't about owing anything, Emily. Everyone needs a helping hand sometimes. And today, I want to be that hand for you." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. James booked a modest yet comfortable room for Emily and her children. As the hotel staff escorted them upstairs, Emily paused at the door, turning back to James, gratitude and hesitation flickering in her gaze. "I'll pay you back for this, James. One day, when I can stand on my own again." James smiled softly. "Then think of it as an investment in your future." The next morning, James returned with a large bag filled with clothes and essentials for the children. When Emily opened the door and saw what he had brought, she was speechless. "Where do we start?" she finally asked. James sat down in a chair, his expression resolute. "First, I'll help you find a job and a stable place to live. Are you ready to start over, Emily?" She looked at her children, then back at James. Maybe, just maybe, this was the second chance she thought she'd never have. "I am." That afternoon, James arranged a meeting for Emily at a local community center that specialized in helping people rebuild their lives. They offered job placement programs, financial counseling, and temporary housing assistance. As they walked into the center, Emily gripped her children's hands tightly, anxiety creeping into her chest. A kind-looking woman named Mrs. Reynolds welcomed them. "Emily, I'm so glad James brought you here. We've helped many people get back on their feet, and I believe we can help you too." Emily swallowed hard, feeling overwhelmed. I don't even know where to start." Mrs. Reynolds smiled warmly. "Let's take it one step at a time. Do you have any work experience?" Emily nodded. "I used to work as an administrative assistant before everything fell apart." James, who had been sitting quietly, leaned forward. "She's great with organizing and multitasking. I remember how dedicated she was." Mrs. Reynolds made some notes. "That's good. There's an office nearby looking for someone with your skills. If you're willing, we can set up an interview for tomorrow." Emily's breath caught in her throat. After months of feeling invisible, someone was offering her a real chance. "Yes, I'd love that." That evening, James took Emily and the kids to dinner. It was nothing extravagant, just a quiet family-friendly diner, but to Emily, it felt like a luxury. As they sat in the booth, Liam looked up from his plate. "Mr. James, are you Mommy's friend?" James chuckled. "Yes, buddy. A very old friend." Emily smiled but then hesitated. "James, why are you doing all of this for me?" He set his fork down, looking at her seriously. "Because I know what it's like to struggle, Emily. I wasn't always this successful. There was a time when I had nothing, and someone gave me a chance. If they hadn't, I wouldn't be here today." She stared at him. "I never knew." He shrugged. "I don't talk about it much, but the point is no one should have to do this alone. You deserve a fresh start." Emily blinked back tears. She had spent so long believing no one cared, that she had to fight every battle alone. But here was James proving her wrong. The next morning, Emily nervously stepped into the office for her interview. James had offered to watch the kids while she focused on this opportunity. An hour later, she walked out, her heart racing. She dialed James's number. "I got the job," she whispered, barely believing the words herself. On the other end, she could hear James's smile. "I knew you would." Emily looked up at the sky, taking a deep breath. For the first time in a long time, She felt something she thought she had lost forever: hope. That evening, Emily returned to the hotel, her heart still racing from the excitement of getting the job. As she walked in, she saw James sitting on the floor with Liam and his sister, helping them put together a small puzzle. The sight warmed her heart in a way she hadn't felt in years. James looked up and grinned. "So, how does it feel to be employed again?" Emily let out a small laugh. "Terrifying, but also amazing." She sat down next to them, watching as her children happily fit pieces of the puzzle together. It had been so long since she had seen them this relaxed. James handed her a folder. "I took the liberty of checking out some apartment listings today. Nothing fancy, but safe, affordable, and close to your new job." Emily hesitated before taking it. The idea of having a home again, something truly hers, felt almost unreal. "I don't know how to thank you, James." He shook his head. "You don't have to. Just promise me that when you're back on your feet, you'll help someone else who needs it. That's how we keep the cycle going." She nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. Over the next few weeks, life slowly started to take shape. Emily began working at her new job, and with James's help, she found a small but comfortable apartment for her and the kids. The first night they slept in their own space, Liam hugged her tightly and whispered, "Mommy, we have a home again." Tears slipped down her cheeks as she kissed his forehead. "Yes, sweetheart, we do." James visited often, making sure they had everything they needed. But as time passed, Emily began to notice something. He was slowly stepping back, giving her space to stand on her own. One afternoon, she invited him over for coffee. As they sat on her tiny but cozy couch, she looked at him thoughtfully. "You've done so much for us, James, but I can tell you're pulling away." He sighed, setting his cup down. "Emily, I wanted to make sure you had the foundation to rebuild. But you don't need me to hold your hand forever. You're strong enough to do this on your own." She bit her lip. "Maybe, but that doesn't mean I want you to disappear." Their eyes met, and for the first time, Emily realized something. This wasn't just about gratitude anymore. James smiled softly. "I'm not going anywhere. I just needed to know you believed in yourself as much as I believe in you." For the first time in years, she did. As the months passed, Emily found herself growing stronger. Mentally, emotionally, and financially. Her job was going well, and she had even started taking night classes to improve her skills. Her kids were thriving in school, their laughter filling the small apartment that now truly felt like home. James still visited often, but as promised, he stepped back just enough to let Emily stand on her own. Their friendship deepened, built not on pity, but on mutual respect and understanding. One evening, after work, Emily called James and asked him to meet her at a small cafe. When he arrived, she was already there, sipping a cup of tea. "You sounded urgent," he said, sitting across from her. She took a deep breath. "James, I got promoted." His face lit up with pride. "Emily, that's amazing." She nodded, barely able to contain her emotions. "It means I'll be able to provide for my kids without struggling. It means I won't have to constantly look over my shoulder, afraid of losing everything again." James reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "I knew you could do it." She smiled, but then her expression turned serious. "But there's something else. I've been thinking a lot about what you said about giving back. I want to help other women who are in the same place I was. I want to volunteer at the community center and maybe even start a program for single mothers trying to rebuild their lives. James leaned back, impressed. That's a big step. She nodded. I know. But if you hadn't helped me, I don't know where I'd be. I want to do for others what you did for me. His smile was one of admiration. Then do it. And if you need any help getting started, you know where to find me. A year later, Emily stood in front of a small group of women at the community center. Women who, like her, had once felt hopeless. She shared her story, not as a victim, but as someone who had fought her way back. At the back of the room, James watched quietly, pride shining in his eyes. She had come so far not because of him, but because she had found the strength within herself. As the event ended, Emily walked over to him, her eyes filled with gratitude. You changed my life, James. He shook his head. No, Emily, you changed your own life. I just reminded you that you could. She smiled. Well, I hope you know you're stuck with me now. James laughed. Wouldn't have it any other way. As they walked out together, the evening air was cool, but Emily felt nothing but warmth. This wasn't just the end of a difficult chapter. It was the beginning of something new, something beautiful. She was no longer just surviving. She was living,